After going through the basic provisions of Indian Companies Act regarding dividend distribution, what we find is that there are two issues to be settled before we start accounting for dividend. The issues are, number one, the amount which is payable as dividend. So first is the calculation of dividend payable. Second is the source of dividend. That is how to pay dividend, which source should be utilized. Once these two things are settled, then we can move towards the journal entries. So before we take up journal entries, we have to take up these two issues. First one is the amount of dividend. So let us see how the calculation of the amount of dividend goes. Dividend can be given to us in three ways in a practical problem. Companies may declare dividend as rate per share. Like company is declaring 2 rupees dividend per share. Okay, so this is very easy to handle because per share implies that you are just to look at the number of shares and apply the rate. It doesn't ask for anything else. Another is flat rate percentage. Now when a percentage is given, like company is giving dividend of 10%, 5%, so a flat rate implies that a direct rate should be applied to paid up share capital. So whereas rate per share is applicable on number of shares, percentage is applicable on paid up share capital. Right? Third one is percentage rate per annum. Company is declaring 10% per annum dividend. Now when we say per annum, it means we are talking about time period also. So herein the difference of the two will be evident when we have share capitals being issued at two different times. So if in a particular year you go for fresh issue of shares in say November and you are paying dividend say in March next year, right? So at that time when you are giving dividend, a flat rate will imply that whatever capital is there on that date, rate is applicable on that. But here in this case, we will be considering the months. That means the older capital which was there right from the beginning of the year, on that you will be applying the rate per annum. But the capital which is issued during the year, say on 1st November, so you will be applying the rate from 1st November till the time the dividend is being issued, right? So a rate per annum will imply that we will be considering not only the paid up capital, but we will also be considering the number of months for which the capital is there with the company. Okay, so considering these three basic things, we can calculate the amount of dividend on the capital. Now when we look at capital, the capital of share of a company is again of different types. Sometimes you will be given share capital is fully called and paid, or share capital is fully called but there are some arrears, or share capital is partly called and partly paid with arrears. So there may be various ways in which the capital might be available. So what will be the impact of these methods on the capital or on the dividend amount, so that we can see through the example. Suppose we have only fully called and paid capital. Suppose a company has 10,000 shares of rupees 100 each, fully called and paid. Okay. Now, the capital is fully called and paid. It implies that your capital in all will be 10,000 shares into 100. That means 10 lakh rupees. So, your paid up capital is 10 lakh rupees. Now, a rate per share. That is, dividend is given say at the rate of 8 rupees per share. So 8 per share will imply it is applicable on number of shares. So you have 10,000 shares. So number of shares is 10,000 shares So your dividend amount will be that the company is going to declare. So 8 rupees per share on 10,000 shares, that is number of shares into dividend rate per share. So that means 10,000 shares at the rate of 8 rupees, that will give you 80,000 rupees of dividend. Now in this case, a flat rate is applicable on paid up share capital. So suppose we are given company declares 8% dividend. Okay, so dividend will now be number of shares into paid up capital per share. So that will give you paid up share capital into dividend rate percentage. So your paid up capital is 10,000 shares into 100. That means 10 lakh rupees into 8%. That gives you 80,000 rupees. Now this can be converted very easily into this type of problem also, because a percentage can be applied on the paid up capital per share. That will give you rate per share. So if it is 8% dividend, then per share capital, per share amount is 100 rupees. So dividend per share can easily be taken as 8% of 100, that is 8 rupees. So you have 8 rupees of dividend being declared. But there is no need for this. We can easily take up paid up share capital. This is your paid up share capital into dividend rate per share. Okay. When you multiply the number of shares with the paid up capital per share, you get paid up share capital. Now coming to rate per annum. Now if the rate is 8% per annum, then in a simple question, it is not going to affect the amount of dividend, because it is paid up share capital into dividend rate into number of months by 12. Now paid up share capital is 10 lakh as we have done in this case. Rate is 8%, and since this is dividend being declared, we can say at the end of the year, so whole year has passed, so the amount will be taken for the whole year, that is 12 by 12. So it doesn't matter here. The amount will be different in this case when the time period is going to be different from 1 year. So if you are declaring dividend within a year, that is in case of interim dividend, this rate is going to give you different answer. Or if you have capitals being issued during the year, then you are going to get different amount here, because herein you are to consider the number of months, that is the time period is to be considered. But otherwise, if it is an annual dividend given at the end of the year, final dividend, it won't affect the amounts. Now let us take up the second case when the shares are not fully called. Say your share capital is 10,000 shares of rupees 100 each, 80 called. Okay, now out of 100 rupees, 80 rupees have been called. So dividend rate is still being 8 rupees per share. We are taking up the same example. Reason being, we want to understand the method along with the difference in the three type of rates being given in a practical problem. Okay, so dividend rate is still 8 rupees per share, so it doesn't mention whether the share is called or partly called, etc. So dividend amount is still going to be number of shares into dividend rate per share. So number of shares are 10,000, still 10,000. Rate is 8 rupees per share, so your dividend amount is going to be 80,000. Now in this case, what will happen? Dividend is paid up capital into percentage dividend rate. So paid up capital herein is 10,000 shares of 80 rupees each, that means 8 lakh rupees. So dividend rate is 8%, so that gives you 64,000 rupees of dividend. So now your amount is going to be different. Coming here in the third case, when the rate is 8% per annum. Now, in this case, your dividend amount is still 64,000 because the time period is not different. Time period is still annual. This is going to give you different answer from here when the time period is different. So we'll take up that case also. So we first took up fully called and paid capital. Now we have partly called capital, the capital which is not fully called. Let us take up the third case. Partly paid capital with arrears. That is effect of arrears. Now when we are to adjust the effect of arrears, then we are to consider the rules of the dividend regarding arrears. Now normally if nothing is given, then it implies that the dividend is payable on paid up capital. So the amount which is in arrears, on that amount dividend is not going to be paid because our dividend is payable on paid up capital. So when we have partly paid capital with the arrears, suppose you have same capital of 10,000 shares of 100 rupees each, that is 10 lakh rupees of capital, less you have final call of arrears at the rate of 20 rupees, say 20,000 rupees. So your share capital is 9,80,000 paid. Now when we have rate per share being given, now per share is still having the same formula, that number of shares into dividend rate per share. So whether you have share capital partly called or you have capital with the arrears, this is not going to affect either of the components. It doesn't affect number of shares because it is still the same. It doesn't affect the rate. So the dividend in this case will again be number of shares 10,000 into rate of 8 rupees. So 80,000 rupees is the dividend in this case. Now considering flat rate. So dividend amount is paid up share capital into dividend rate. Paid up capital into dividend rate. Now here in the differences. Paid up capital is 9,80,000. 9,80,000 into the rate 8%. So this is going to give you 78,400. So now your different amount of dividend is there, right? Because the dividend is payable on the paid up capital, and because of the arrears, your number of shares or the capital based on number of shares, total capital will be different from the paid up capital. Your total capital was 10 lakh because when you took number of shares, you are just considering total capital. But herein, when you consider paid up capital, so arrears will not be considered. So on the remaining amount, dividend is calculated. In the third case, same amount of dividend shall appear because we are not having any difference in the time period. Okay, so same 78,400. So you see, a rate per share and a percentage rate will give you two different answers when your shares are having arrears. Now in case of arrears, there is another rule. Sometimes companies include a particular provision in the articles that no dividend is payable on shares with arrears. So you are not to pay dividend on the shares which are having arrears. So now you are to altogether cancel the dividend or not to give the dividend on the shares which are having arrears. So if any person who hasn't paid the amount of call, who is having calls in arrear, whether he is having some amount as paid, he won't be given any dividend. So now we'll have to altogether cancel the shares because it says that dividend is not payable on the shares with arrears. So now here in this case, when we are to calculate dividend, which is number of shares into dividend rate, herein the number of shares will now be not 10,000, because we are not to pay dividend on the shares which are in arrears. So the shares are, if 20 rupees is the final call amount, it means that 20,000 rupees of amount is in arrears. So 1,000 shares. 20 rupees of arrear per share will imply it is on 1,000 shares. So out of 10,000 shares, 1,000 will be deducted, because these are the shares on which you have arrears. So herein we are not to pay dividend on the shares with the arrears. So company will pay dividend at the rate of 8 rupees. We are following the same question, but now on 9,000 shares. So see, your amount of dividend is going to be different in the first case when rate per share is given, when number of share changes, right? Now coming here, when the rate is given as a percentage at a flat rate, because a percentage can be given at a flat rate or as per annum. So if a flat rate is given, now your dividend is to be calculated on paid up capital into percentage dividend rate. Now paid up capital is normally taken as directly given to us 9,80,000, but your article has a clause here that no dividend is payable on the shares with the arrears. It means while calculating paid up capital, which is number of shares into paid up capital, you will be taking up 9,000 shares of 100 rupees each. Your paid up capital here in this case will imply capital without those shares on which you have the arrears. So out of 10,000 shares of 100 each, your 20 rupees of final call is in arrear on how many shares? 1,000 shares. That will make it 20,000. So even if 1,000 is not given, we have calculated this. So out of 10,000 shares, 1,000 shares are having arrears. So you will pay dividend on the remaining 9,000 shares. So paid up capital is now 9 lakh. Rate is 8%. So 72,000. Coming here, now this won't affect our calculation here, because per annum will give you a different answer when the time period is different. So your paid up capital without the shares with arrears is 9 lakh. So your capital amount is 9 lakh into 8%. Dividend is coming out to be 72,000. Now we will consider a case wherein you have, say, percentage per annum is going to matter. Now this is going to affect your calculations of dividend. Number one, when you have interim dividend. Now let us say we are working for interim dividend. We are still continuing with the same example, that is capital is 10,000 shares of 100 rupees each. That means your capital is 10 lakh rupees. Now suppose company gives interim dividend at the rate of 4 rupees per share, or here in this case say 10%, and here 10% per annum. Okay. Now interim dividend is 4 rupees per share. So your dividend amount is going to be number of shares into dividend rate. That is 10,000 shares at the rate of 4 rupees per share. So your interim dividend is going to be 40,000 rupees. 10% will imply dividend is to be calculated as the paid up capital into dividend rate. So your paid up capital is 10 lakh. Into dividend rate, 10% will give you 1 lakh rupees of interim dividend. Now when the rate is given per annum, then we are to consider the number of months. So paid up capital into dividend rate into number of months upon 12. So your paid up capital is still 10 lakh, rate is 10% per annum, but number of months will be measured as to the date on which you are giving the dividend. So on that date, how many months have passed in a particular year. So if say in that year, let us say the financial year is 2019-20, which starts from 1st April 2019 and ends on 31st March 2020. So if you are giving dividend say on 1st October 2019, okay, so this dividend is given on 1st October 2019. So in this year, April 2019 to 31st March 2020, when you give dividend on 1st October, so the number of months which have passed are from 1st April to 1st October, right? In this year, you are giving dividend on 1st October 2019. This is the date of dividend. On this date you are working. So this date is not material because it hasn't yet come. On this date you decided to give dividend, you are working here. So in the current year, 6 months have passed. So you will provide for dividend for 6 months. Suppose you give dividend on 1st January. So 9 months have passed, 9 by 12. Suppose you give dividend on say 31st of August. So from 1st April to 31st of August, you have 5 months being passed. So 5 months dividend. So dividend will be taken up for the number of months. In other words, we can also say a per annum rate can be scaled down for the number of months. So rather than taking this formula, you can take scaled down rate. So it is 5% for the period. So your dividend is going to be 50,000 rupees, right? So if it is 10% per annum, and if 6 months have passed while giving the dividend, 6 months means 10% into 6 by 12. So your rate is going to be 5%. If 3 months have passed, it means your dividend rate is going to be 2.5%. So a per annum rate can be converted into a flat rate by adjusting it for the number of months. So you can scale down the rate and you can calculate dividend. So in reality, we can say that out of 10%, 5% dividend has been given as interim dividend. Now when interim dividend is calculated like this, it is going to affect our final dividend also. Suppose in the same example, company declares final dividend of say 18%. Now in this percentage, if final dividend of 18% is given, you will take up dividend as it is. But herein a final dividend as per annum. This is a rate for the full year. But during this year, you have already given 5% dividend. Effective rate of dividend is 5%. So you have already given it. So the dividend which will be given at the end will be 18% minus 5%, that is 13%. So this will be the dividend which will be given finally. But this happens only because we have per annum being mentioned. This 18% flat rate will imply you gave 10% interim dividend, you gave 18% later on. So it doesn't affect your rate of dividend. Your rate of dividend will be affected only when it is per annum. Since 18% is per annum for the year, and during this year you have already given some dividend, so your final dividend to be declared will be 13%. So sometimes when students are solving problems, they get confused as to when to deduct interim dividend and when to take the final dividend as it is. So just remember, we are to adjust final dividend for interim dividend when per annum term is given, right? Now we have considered different types of capital. We have considered effect of arrears under two cases: when dividend is given normally as a rule on paid up capital, and when dividend is to be given only with the shares without arrears, right? Now let us consider the effect of additional capital. Okay. Now suppose we are given that the company on 31st of March 2020 is having paid up capital of, we are continuing with the same 10,000 shares of 100 rupees each. Okay. Additional information says that out of these shares, 4,000 shares were issued on 1st January 2020. Okay. So what it implies is, this is the closing capital. Just consider, this is the closing capital. So you have 10,000 shares at the end of the year, but during that year at some point of time 4,000 shares were issued. It means in the beginning of the year you had 6,000 shares, then during the year on 1st January you issued 4,000 shares, giving you a total of 10,000 shares. Now whenever something is happening like fresh issue or additional capital being issued, we should see the change on a timeline. Otherwise we are not able to adjust the amounts. Your year is from 1st April 2019 to 31st March 2020. Because this is the paid up capital on 31st March 2020 and the shares were issued during the preceding year. It means our year is this. On this date, you have additional capital being issued 4,000 shares. 10,000 shares are there on this date, 31st March. So what will you infer from here? On a timeline, your initial capital should have been 6,000. Then only by adding the two you have got this sum, because this is closing capital. Closing capital is the resultant amount after adjusting opening plus the fresh issue. So you had 6,000 in the beginning, 4,000 shares being issued during the year, making up total 10,000, right? Now when the dividend is to be calculated in such a case, will it affect our calculations? A rate per share will imply we are to calculate dividend on the number of shares. Since we are paying dividend at the end of the year, so at that time you have 10,000 shares. So give them dividend at the rate given to you. Say dividend rate is 10 rupees per share. And here we are taking say 10%. And here we are taking 10% per annum. Okay. So 10 rupees per share will imply 1 lakh rupees of dividend. Now let us come here a flat rate. Again in flat rate we are not to be bothered by the number of months. So we are just to take paid up capital with the rate of dividend. So paid up capital is 10 lakh. When you are giving this dividend, your capital is this much. So 10% rate will imply 1 lakh rupees of dividend. Now herein, when the rate is per annum, now things are going to be different. So how will we calculate dividend? You have, just see on the timeline, you have 6,000 shares in the beginning of the year. Then you issued these shares on 1st April 2020. So we can work out the calculation in two manners. Either we can say that from 1st April to 1st January 2020, we had how many shares? We had 6,000 shares of 100 rupees each. After this date, we have 10,000 shares of 100 rupees each, right? So your amount of dividend will be 6,000 shares into 100 and rate of dividend is 10% per annum. So this is for how many months? 9 months. Plus 1 lakh rupees of capital, 10,000 shares, 10,000 shares of 100 each, 10% dividend for 3 months. So you can either make calculations like this. $45,000 plus 25,000, that is 70,000 rupees of dividend. This is one way of making calculation. Another way of saying the same thing is that you had 6,000 shares throughout the year because these were there in the beginning. So throughout the year you had 6,000 shares. So on these 6,000 shares you will provide for dividend, you will give them dividend for one full year. Then this additional capital was issued. So this capital was issued on 1st January. It means on these shares we will provide for dividend for the relevant number of months only. So for 3 months dividend will be provided, which implies you have 60,000 rupees of dividend for this capital, and for the additional issue you have 10,000 rupees of dividend, 70,000 in each case. So your dividend amount is going to be 70,000. It is up to you how you read the timeline. This is the timeline. Whenever time period is involved, always make it a habit to write up the year and write all the transactions on the timeline. That makes it very easy to understand the transactions. You can understand it in any manner, your answer is going to be correct. So either we say that we had 6,000 shares from 1st April to 1st January. Then from this date onwards we have 10,000 shares. So on 6,000 shares, 10% dividend for 9 months, then 10,000 shares, 10% dividend for 3 months. Another way of saying the same thing is that these 6,000 shares were there throughout the year. So on these 6,000 shares we will be providing for dividend for the full year. These 4,000 shares were there only for 3 months. So on this 3 months dividend will be given. So you can calculate dividend accordingly. So amount is going to be 70,000. Another benefit of making timeline is that when we make timeline, we can never be wrong in our calculations regarding the amounts. Now suppose in place of this, if it was say 1st April 2019, paid up capital of 10,000 on 1st April. Now sometimes student gets confused, should we add 4,000 or should we subtract 4,000? Now if it is given on 1st April 2019, when I am making this timeline, 1st April 2019, 31st March 2020, on this 1/1/2020 additional capital being issued 4,000 shares. So if it says 31st March, I will put the amount here. If it says 1st April 2019, I will put it here. And then I can read the timeline. I can say 10,000 shares in the beginning of the year. I add 4,000, so 14,000 shares for the last 3 months. So on 10,000 shares, dividend for 9 months. On 14,000 shares, you added dividend for next 3 months. Or if you read the timeline in other manner, 10,000 shares throughout the year were there. So on 10,000 shares, 10% dividend for the full year. These shares were added on this date. So on 4,000 shares, 10% dividend for 3 months. So you can read the timeline either by adding the sums, adjusting the sums, or you can read the timeline by taking up individual amounts on the timeline. This is the date on which you are giving the dividend. So it has to be done on this date. So either you move like this or you move individual amount wise. It is up to you. But the point here is that when the dividend rate per annum is given, then your additional capital is going to affect the calculations. So this is all that we have regarding the dividend amount calculation. So in a given problem, we will be calculating the amount of dividend and accordingly we will work for the recording. Now once the amount has been calculated, our second issue in case of dividend is the source of dividend. Which source can be used to pay the dividend? As we all know that dividend is paid out of the profits and reserves. So should we use all profits or all reserves or a combination of the two, or which should be utilized? That should be known beforehand, because when we pass journal entries, we need to know which account is to be used, which account is to be debited, from where the amount of dividend will move to dividend payable account. Now technically there are two sources. One is the surplus. Now surplus can be either your opening balance, that is the amount accumulated so far by the company, or it can be the surplus of the current year. This is the total amount available to you. Okay. Another is out of free reserves. Now when we say free reserves, it means any reserve which can be utilized for giving dividend as per Companies Act, like general reserve, reserve fund, etc. can be used. Now when we talk about say dividend equalization fund, that fund is also maintained for giving the dividend, so that can also be used. But if we say capital reserve, capital redemption reserve, these cannot be used because you have certain restrictions on their use, like CRR can be used only for issuing fully paid bonus shares. Capital reserve can be used for writing of capital losses. Security premium can be used for cancelling premium payable on redemption or for other specified purposes. Similarly, revaluation reserve is not a free reserve because that includes the amount which is based on revaluation of assets. The money hasn't been earned. You did not sell the asset and earn the money. It is just based on the estimations. So free reserve will be the reserves which can freely be distributed without any restrictions. So only those reserves account here, which is general reserve, reserve fund, dividend equalization fund. Similarly, we have sinking fund, etc. So sometimes student might be confused, should we use sinking fund or debenture redemption fund? Now remember, till the time the debentures are there or the asset hasn't been replaced, these reserves are to be maintained. Once your debentures are redeemed, then the amount goes into general reserve, then it becomes a free reserve. But before that, you should not use it. Now, in case of some companies, the government might be providing some assistance because of the guarantee given by government regarding the dividends. Okay, so the amount which is provided by the central government in this regard, that will also be available for giving the dividend. So a third source is out of money provided by central government or state government in pursuance of guarantee given. So many a times when a government is going for the issue of shares for public sector undertakings, then they might be providing a guarantee that minimum this much dividend will be given to the shareholders. So in pursuance of that guarantee, if the company is not having sufficient profits, government will provide money, so that can be used. So that will be used in fact. So surplus is always there. The money which is provided by the central government, it is put into a separate account, and that can also be used for giving the dividend, and you can use free reserves. Now when we talk about the dividend, we have two type of dividends. Number one is interim dividend, another is final dividend. Now when we look at the third point, that is out of the money given by the government, this will be used as per the terms of the guarantee. So we cannot specify anything in this regard. If the terms of guarantee provides that final dividend of this much is to be given, then government will give you money at the end of the year and you will use that money. So whether it is used for interim or final dividend, that will be as per the terms provided to you. So we have no say in this. So you will have to look at the question, the terms being given, and accordingly this money will be used. But when we come to these 2 points, remember, final dividend can be given out of surplus as well. But your interim dividend, it cannot be given out of free reserves. Interim dividend, if company wants to give, it has to be given out of the surplus. Now, usually we say that a company gives interim dividend on the basis of their partial financial statements. So, say on 30th of June, if you have completed your quarterly statement and you find that company is in a position to give dividend and they decide to give interim dividend. So, it seems that you give dividend out of your current year profits. But in reality, at that time, your profit hasn't been calculated actually, and it is there in the estimated statements, right? Or in the quarterly statements which are not accounted for. So you utilize your opening balance or the previous balance of surplus to give the interim dividend. Furthermore, Company Act provides for giving of dividend, interim dividend in a particular year even if the company is not having profits. So if in a particular year company is not having profit in a quarter, but it wants to give dividend, it can still give dividend out of its previously accumulated surplus. So you can give interim dividend out of your previously accumulated surplus or current year profit. So this can be given, but you cannot use free reserves. However, final dividend can be given out of this. Now surplus can be used unconditionally. But when you come to free reserves, there are certain conditions attached to this. So if a company decides to give dividend and you come to free reserves because your surplus is not sufficient, just remember, you can draw out of your free reserves, that is, you can draw from your general reserve to pay the dividend only when your first source is not sufficient. That is, either in this year you do not have any profits, or your profit is very less and you cannot give dividend out of that, so you want to draw upon your reserves to give the dividend. So you will come to this case, this category, only when this category has finished. Now in order to utilize this category, we will have to first see how much amount is to be withdrawn. Now amount to be withdrawn will depend upon two things. Do you have any balance in surplus, or you have loss in the surplus account? So amount to be withdrawn will be equal to, if surplus balance is there, that is, you have some balance left in the surplus, maybe in the opening balance, or current year profit is there, or in the current year you have some loss and you utilized your opening balance to cancel this loss and you are still left with some balance here. Suppose you have a balance of 1 lakh, but your current year profit is say 20,000. Okay. Let us say surplus opening balance is 1 lakh. Your current year profit is say 20,000. But when you look at the dividend amount, you find that you need to pay dividend of say 1,50,000. It means this amount is not sufficient. Okay, so you need 30,000 rupees more. So that 30,000 is to be drawn from free reserves. So balance is there, but amount is not sufficient. So balance is there, but not sufficient to pay dividend. So in that case, you will be withdrawing amount as equal to, amount of withdrawal will be equal to amount needed to pay dividend. So you will simply check how much amount is available, and your dividend payout is say 150. So you need 30,000 rupees. So that will be your amount to be withdrawn from reserves. Right? Another can be that you have surplus opening balance of 1 lakh same, but during the year you got a loss of say 95,000. So you still have a balance 5,000, but it is not sufficient to pay dividend of 1,50,000. So in this case, you will be withdrawing 1,45,000 out of free reserve, the deficiency which is needed here. Okay, so amount needed to pay dividend will be withdrawn. So the difference of the dividend and available balance. Your available balance is 120, dividend is 150, so 30,000 will be withdrawn. Your balance is 5,000, your dividend is 1,50,000, so you need to withdraw 1,45,000. Now second case is if surplus balance is nil or negative. So if in some cases your balance has come out to be nil or negative, then the amount of withdrawal will be equal to dividend plus loss in surplus balance, because Companies Act says that you can pay dividend only after cancelling your losses or debit balances of surplus account, right? So continuing with this, suppose your surplus opening balance is still 1 lakh. as we have in all these cases. But your current year loss is 1,20,000. It means your balance now is 20,000 negative. And if you want to pay same dividend of 1,50,000, same dividend 1,50,000 is to be paid now, but you do not have any balance here, you have a loss. Now Company Act says that you need to make up for this loss first. That means you need to cancel this loss first. So if you are to withdraw from your reserves, you need to withdraw amount first to cancel this loss and then to pay the dividend. So it is not that we are to take up the amount only for dividend. If you have a loss, net loss coming here, you need to make up for this, adjust this first. So the surplus balance is nil or negative, so we will be withdrawing 20,000 rupees to make up for this loss and 1,50,000 for dividends. So our total withdrawal will now be 1,70,000. So we'll have to see the two cases. If some balance is still there, irrespective of profit or loss in the current year, if there is some balance, then you will take up the amount needed only. So the difference of dividend and available balance. But if your balance is negative, then it's not that we are to pay 150 dividend, so we'll withdraw that only. In that case, we'll have to withdraw the amount equal to dividend plus the amount to make up for this loss. So herein the withdrawal will be dividend plus the loss, because this is to be make up first, right? So after deciding about the amount to be withdrawn, let us look at the conditions. Our first condition is that the maximum rate of dividend that a company can pay in such a case, that is out of free reserves, is average of dividends declared in preceding 3 financial years. So you will have to see that what has happened in the last 3 years. So on the basis of the average dividend declared in the last 3 years, the maximum rate will be measured, which implies that suppose you are working for the year 2019-20. So your preceding years will be 2018-19, 2017-18, 2016-17. So just take up the rate given. Suppose herein the company gave 12%. Okay. Herein the company gave 15%. Okay. And in the year 2016-17 company gave say 9%. So average is 12 plus 5 plus 9 upon 3. 12 plus 15 plus 9. So this is going to be 12%. So this is the maximum rate. Now suppose company didn't pay dividend in the last year. Before that it paid 15% and 9%. So the average will be, in this case, it will be 15 plus 9 upon 3. Okay, because we are to take 3, average of 3. In this year we will say 0. So it's not the average of 2 years. It has to be average of 3 years. The only thing is that in this year amount is 0. Okay, so it is 8%. Suppose company did not pay dividend in the last year, last to last year, and in the 2016-17 it gave 9%. So now dividend average will be 3%. Okay, so it is the average of last 3 years. However, this is not applicable. This condition is not applicable if the company hasn't paid any dividend in the last 3 years. So this condition is applicable if the company has paid dividend at least in one of the years, and if the company hasn't paid dividend in the last 3 years, this condition won't be applied. So this condition is not applicable if no dividend declared in last 3 years. So it implies that in such a case company can offer any dividend rate. There is no condition in that case. There is no limit in that case. Our second condition is again regarding the amount of withdrawal. Now the maximum amount of withdrawal, like we have calculated the amount that we can withdraw. Now the maximum amount, upper limit of withdrawal is 10% of paid up capital of the company on the date of declaration of dividend. So it is not in the beginning or in the middle, it is the paid up capital at the end when you are giving dividend plus free reserves. So you can give a maximum of, you can withdraw a maximum of 10% of paid up capital plus free reserves as audited. Okay, so these amounts are to be taken from the latest financial statements as audited. So we have to take up audited financial statements, right? This is one limit of the maximum withdrawal. There is another condition also, that is regarding the amount retained. That is the total amount left in reserves after withdrawals. Okay, so we are to maintain certain minimum balance. So total minimum balance or the amount that can be retained should not fall below 15% of paid up capital as per again latest audited financial statements. So in a year when you want to utilize your reserves to give the dividend, then you need to get your financial statements audited, and then only on that basis you can decide how much amount can be withdrawn from the reserves. So in a way, this is the condition on the minimum amount to be kept in reserves. That is 15% paid up capital. Because when we say total amount should not fall below, it should not be less than, it means this is the minimum amount to be kept in reserves. So in a way, there are two limits on withdrawals. One is the amount of withdrawal that you can withdraw. Second is that indirectly they are saying that this is the minimum amount that should be kept in the reserves. So if you have say total reserves available with you 10 lakh and your minimum amount is coming out to be say 6 lakh, it means you can withdraw a maximum of 4 lakh. So there are two limits on the withdrawals. One from the total capital plus reserve side, another from the paid up capital side. Okay, so you will have to consider both of these, and then the company will decide how much dividend to pay. Now when we are talking about this, let me tell you one more thing here. So earlier, before this Companies Act 2013, this maximum rate of dividend was limited to average up to 10%. So at that time, even this maximum rate was also limited up to 10%. You cannot give beyond 10% dividend out of reserves. But now that condition has been relaxed, right? You can understand why that condition was there, because precedingly we had a statutory transfer to reserves which is no longer there in the new act, and at that time it was that whenever you declare 10% or more dividend, more than 10%, then you need to make transfers to reserves. So automatically it says that if your rate is above 10%, you need to make transfers to reserves and not withdraw from the reserves. So at that time there was a maximum limit here. I am just explaining you the rules for the preceding years also, because when we are solving a practical question, we may be given a question for the preceding years. Although it will be a very rare case. And if we are to compare the two situations, then we need to know what was there in the preceding law and what is there in the new law. Right now there is no condition for statutory transfer or regarding the maximum rate of dividend. It is just the average. Now consider a question. Suppose a company is having share capital of 1 lakh shares of 10 rupees each, that is its capital is 10 lakh rupees. It is having surplus balance of say 1,50,000 rupees. Okay, it has general reserve of 5 lakh. It has revaluation reserve and securities premium of 1,50,000 each, right? Now during the year, company had a loss of 1,80,000. Can it pay dividend during the year? Okay, if its average dividend of last 3 years is 11%. Okay, so in the last 3 years your average dividend is coming out to be 11%. So can it pay dividend in this year? So we'll have to check the conditions. Let us first consider the amount of dividend. It is 11%, so we'll consider it on the capital. Okay, number first condition is maximum rate of dividend. So maximum rate of dividend is 11%. So a company in such a situation can offer at the maximum 11% dividend. So we can assume, if nothing else is given, we can assume 11%. Suppose your question was, can it pay dividend at the rate of 15%? If the average of last year's is 11%, then we will say no. 15% cannot be given because maximum limit on the dividend is average of last 3 years dividend. So your maximum dividend will be 11%. So in that case, we'll cross 15% and we'll give 11%. Suppose your question says, can it pay dividend during the year at the rate of say 10%? Of course, you can give 10% because your maximum limit is 11%. So you can give 10%. So you can say yes, first condition is satisfied. It is below average of last 3 years. So that will be given. Now second condition is maximum amount of withdrawal. So we'll have to first decide the amount of withdrawal. How do we see this? We first of all take up the surplus balance to find out how much amount is needed for withdrawal. Your surplus balance is 1,50,000 in the beginning and you have a loss of 1,80,000. It means your balance is now 30,000 negative. So you not only need to withdraw the money for dividend but also to make up for this loss. So your dividend amount is 11%. So 11% of capital is 1,10,000. So the amount of withdrawal from the reserves is going to be 1,10,000 for dividend plus 30,000 for the loss. Now suppose in this year you were not having loss of 1,80,000 but you had a loss of say 1 lakh only. So 1 lakh rupees of loss will imply you have a balance of 50,000. So if you want to give dividend of 1,10,000, you have 50,000 with you. So you need to withdraw only 60,000. So that is what we have studied, that if you have a positive balance, you will withdraw the amount only for deficiency. But if it is negative, you need to withdraw amount for this also. I hope this is clear. Just consider it here. Suppose your surplus balance was same 1,50,000, but your current year loss was 1 lakh. It means your balance now is 50,000, but you want to give dividend of 1,10,000. It means to pay this dividend, you have 50,000 with you. So you need to withdraw 60,000 rupees only. That is what we meant when we had this condition here. If surplus balance is there, then amount needed to pay dividend will be withdrawn, only the deficiency. But if the balance is negative, then we'll have to withdraw the amount for dividend and we'll have to make up the loss also. So in this case, we'll be adjusting the loss as well. Now the condition is maximum amount of withdrawal. Maximum withdrawal amount is 10% of paid up capital plus free reserves. Okay. Now 10% of paid up capital, your capital is 10 lakh and your reserves as per the audited statements, at that time you have reserve, general reserve as well as a balance, which is also accumulated profit. So when we say reserves here, it not only means reserve, it also implies your accumulated profit. So paid up capital plus free reserves and accumulated profits, which is now 6,50,000. So 10% of 16,50,000, that is 1,65,000. So second condition is satisfied because your withdrawal is going to be 1,40,000. It is within this maximum limit. So it means that this dividend can be provided. Now let us see the third condition. Third condition is for minimum amount in the reserves should be 15% of paid up capital. So the condition is minimum amount in reserves. It should be 15% of paid up capital. And your paid up capital is 10 lakh rupees. It means you should have 1,50,000 rupees in your reserves. Now let us see amount left in reserves. And as I say, reserves includes accumulated surplus. So amount left in surplus plus amount left in reserves. Now when we look at surplus, we had 1,50,000 balance, but the whole was used to write off the loss, right? So nothing is left. When you look at reserve, you have only general reserve which we can use. Out of that, if you have withdrawn 1,40,000, it means 0 in the surplus and 3,60,000 in the reserves. So in all you have 3,60,000, whereas minimum requirement is 1,50,000. So even this condition is satisfied. So both the conditions are being satisfied. So you can give 11% dividend. Now suppose when you calculate this minimum amount left in reserve, say 1,50,000, and herein you are having not 360, suppose you are having 120. It means that you need to adjust the amount by 30,000 because 120 is left, but we need to have 150. So 30,000 is to be adjusted. So it will lead to further adjustments. So we will be taking up the amount withdrawn in two ways. One is that maximum withdrawal limit is 10% of the capital plus all free reserves including surplus balance. So this is the maximum limit. So you have withdrawn 1,40,000. It is falling within this. Second is the amount to be left in the reserves. In reserves, 15% of paid up capital must be maintained. So 15% is 1,50,000. So you are to maintain this much. So you just check how much reserve balance is there now. So in surplus nothing is left, and reserves we are left with 360. So obviously this condition is met. So wherever the conditions are not being met, we'll have to reduce the rate and then revise the calculations. Okay, so you can adjust it. That completes the withdrawals out of reserves. So again, let us see, the dividend can be given out of surplus, out of free reserves, and out of the money provided by the government. The money which is given by the government is condition bound, so it will be used to pay the dividend as it is. But when we look at reserves, there are certain conditions. So you need to check the conditions while giving dividend out of reserves. We give dividend out of reserves when either we have nothing left in our surplus, like in this case we are having a debit balance, or our amount is not sufficient to pay the dividend. So in both the cases we will be withdrawing from the reserves, and we'll have to check the conditions regarding the maximum dividend amount, surplus balance, that is the maximum withdrawal limit, and minimum balance to be maintained in the reserves. All right.
Okay, so next time we will be taking up the journal entries. Thank you.